All right. And, so there you guys are comfortable and ready. Rolling.
Yungwani Gulio, ne ya gyungwe, Yungwano Guatselio, ne ya gyungwe,
Yahweh, Yugwata Stancelaya, Neyagimwe.
ayo, weya, we hana yo,
Way ahead, way ahead, way ahead, way hana yo, way ahead, way ahead, way ahead, Deo de Lencelane, Neyagimwe.
Yungwani Gulio, ne ya gyungwe, Yungwano Guatselio, ne ya gyungwe,
Yahweh, Stancelayam, Neyagimwe.
ayo, weya, we hana yo,
Way ahead, way ahead, way ahead, way hana yo, way ahead, way ahead, way ahead, Deo de Excelane, Neyagimwe.
Welcome. Hello, everyone. We see names being dropped in. Thank you so much. I see Virginia, Seattle, Dakota Territory. Welcome, everyone. Thank you so much. I think we'll just go over the interpretation. Si tenemos gente que necesitan interpretación en español. ¿Está lista? ¿El botón está ahí? Ok. Bueno.
Espérame.
No lo veo en mi computadora. So give us one moment. We're just going to make sure that our Spanish interpretation is ready. Okay. There we go. Okay. Para gente que necesitan interpretación en español, hay un botón abajo con 3 puntitos. Y solamente debes escoger español. Y también en tu móvil haga clic en su opción de 3 puntos que dice más. So, si necesitan interpretación en español, tenemos. Okay, wonderful. Well, welcome everyone. We will get started now and we will welcome all our friends as they join. My name is Julie Quiroz. I am a member of the Birth Center Equity team. My pronouns are she and her, and I'm so deeply excited and honored to be here today. Welcome to this session. How did you get here? Which is just hearing the amazing, beautiful, and honest stories of midwives and birth center leaders from our Indigenous communities. Also want to thank you again. This is our 2nd annual Birth Center Week. We're so excited to be back again. And I'd like to say on behalf of Birth Center Equity and our network of over 40 birth centers led by Black, Indigenous, Latina, Asian, all kinds of communities of color. Thank you for being here with us. Thank you for building power with us. The purpose of Birth Center Week, we have sort of 2 primary purposes. One is to just really celebrate, and I mean celebrate and elevate the power, the potential, and the impact of birth centers, particularly community birth centers. And also to build our cultural, economic, and political power as birth centers in communities of color. So that is our purpose. That's what we're doing this week. And just so excited to turn it over to our moderator, leader, Marina. And I will pass off to you now. Thank you.
Thanks so much, Julie. Hi, everybody. Welcome. It's so exciting to be part of the second annual Birth Center Equity Birth Center Week. It's just so cool and like, what a great idea. And I love that BCE was like, we're going to just really move this forward in this just incredible community-based way. So thank you so much for inviting me to hang out with you all today. So we're going to just do a few things. You know, I am also a somatics practitioner, and so I just kind of like to just start us all off with just taking a breath. I don't know what everybody's day was like. I know that most mornings are pretty busy. So just really inviting you to come into community with us, come to our kitchen table, come sit down with us. If you need a little beverage, get yourself a little beverage. Because this is about making friends. This is about relationship. And one of the most beautiful things about the Indigenous way is that relationship is so important, and especially relationship in one's community. And so we just really invite you in to be here today. So I'm gonna start us off with just a little poem. It's a Joy Harjo poem, and then we'll do just a quick little minute of stretch. And then I'm gonna have each panelist just introduce themselves really quickly, and you all can introduce yourselves however you want. Definitely name your birth center and where you're located, but everything else is yours to do with as you want. So this poem's pretty famous. It's called Remember by Joy Harjo. Remember the sky that you were born under. Know each of the stars' stories. Remember the moon. Know who she is. Remember the sun's birth at dawn. That is the strongest point of time. Remember sundown and the giving away tonight. Remember your birth, how your mother struggled to give you form and breath. You are evidence of her life and her mother's and hers. Remember your father, he is your life also. Remember the earth whose skin you are, red earth, black earth, yellow earth, white earth, brown earth. We are all earth. Remember the plants, trees, animal life, who all have their tribes, their families, their histories too. Talk to them, listen to them. They are alive poems. Remember the wind. Remember her voice. She knows the origin of this universe. Remember you are all people and all people are you. Remember you are this universe and this universe is you. Remember all is in motion, is growing, is you. Remember language comes from this. Remember the dance language is, that life is. Remember. That's Joy Harjo. And then this little stretching that we're going to do, it's called the social justice stretch. It's shared by Nankululeko Shongwe. And so depending where you are, just wherever you're at and however you happen to be in this moment, you want to reach down in some way and get the power from the grassroots. So just reach down, grab that grassroots power, just grab it. So much power. Oh, so strong. And then you're going to reach up to the sky, to the ancestors for inspiration. Oh, grab all that ancestral inspiration. Woo! And then you're going to shake off the dominant Western culture, the expectations of productivity, perfectionism. individuality, just shake it off. And then you're going to move with the winds of change. We're flexible because we are safe. Indigenous midwives have always existed, exist today, and will always exist. And then finally, you just shine your superpowers. Whew, just shine them out. Thank you, everybody. All right, so I'm just going to go around on my screen. Tara, you are first on my screen. So I'm going to go to you and just have you just kind of briefly introduce yourself.
I'm going to shine my superpower. I love that. Aloha, everybody. My name is Tara Lawal. I'm Native Hawaiian and Indo-Fijian. And I'm the executive director of Rainier Valley Birth and Health Center in Seattle and a second location in Renton, Washington. And I've been part of the Birth Center Equity Group from the beginning. So it's so beautiful to hear that there's more than 40 birth centers around the US. So congratulations. This is awesome. Happy to be here this week.
All right, Vanessa, your turn.
Okay, I'm sorry, my computer's being a little off today. My name is Vanessa. I am from Puerto Rico, and I have been a midwife for a very long time, and now I am working with Birth Center Equity. Like, we've worked together to create an amazing birth center here with their support, Marina's guidance and strength throughout this all. It's been amazing, and we have our first birth center here in Puerto Rico.
Yay! All right, Belen, we'll go to you.
Good morning or afternoon, everyone. My name is Belen Marcus. I am from Breath of My Heart birthplace, located in the Espanola Valley on Tewa territory.
Thank you. And Mariana, you're last.
My name is Mariana Holland. I'm a certified nurse midwife in Arizona. And our birth center, or my birth center, opened last year. So we just celebrated our first birthday. And we are the only birth center in Arizona staffed and owned by midwives of color.
Yay. Okay, well, thank you. So what we're going to do, sort of our little itinerary, is we're going to start with some questions. We are going to start out with questions for each one of the panelists that they're going to answer. And then after about 3 questions, we'll do a little time check. We'll see where we're at. And if we have time for another question, we will do it. But if not, then we're going to actually go to you all watching so that you all have some good time to ask questions. So please write your questions down. And I think also Julie is tracking questions. So if you just like want to get it into the comment box so that you don't lose it, feel free, because she's tracking the questions. So once again, just really want to thank everybody for being here today. Okay, so we're going to start with the first question for each one of you, which is, can you share a brief overview of your journey in midwifery and how you arrived at becoming a birth center owner? And then I just want to remind you there is translation, so maybe just a little bit of paced talking, like try not to go too super fast. And let me just ask that one more time. Can you share a brief overview of your journey in midwifery and how you arrived at becoming a birth center owner? And this time we're going to go in reverse. So I'm going to start with you, Mariana.
Sure. My midwifery journey actually started. My family is from Frontera, from Chihuahua in Texas. And when I grew up, I wanted to be a curandera. And I come from a very, very traditional and very conservative family. So that was not something that I could do. And I started looking, and there were other midwives in the community. So my plan was still to become a traditional midwife in the US, but I couldn't at that time find anybody to take care of me. And I found out from a friend that there was a nurse midwife in town. So I enrolled in nursing school to become a midwife. And when it was time for me to have a baby, there were midwives in town, but they were only available to people who were in a Medicaid program, or so people with private insurance or private pay um, could not have service, and I couldn't find a midwife to have my baby at home. So I became a hospital midwife to meet that need, and that's actually one of the things that led me to birth center. To be here is that there were no other midwives that I knew that looked like me in Phoenix. There are a few now, and one of them was a student. But I wanted to be the midwife that I needed, and to be able to have a birth in the community like I would have liked to.
Oh, beautiful. We'll go over to you, Belen.
A brief recap of my journey into midwifery. Similarly to Mariana, I was a young person thinking about midwifery, and didn't find any in my community, in the Pueblo of Okeawinge, and looked around at different places, different pueblos, and didn't find any when I was pregnant with my daughter, and waited several years to engage in becoming a midwife myself. My daughter was in high school by the time I started my pathway into midwifery, and so the question is about ownership of the birth center as well. And so we have a nonprofit, so there's not an ownership to it. It's I co-direct with three other people, or two other people, and my apprenticeship grew alongside the development of the birth center. So we had parallel journeys, the birth center and myself.
Thank you. It's like I just kind of want to keep going and be like, tell me more. We will, we'll get there. All right, Vanessa.
I there was nothing here in Puerto Rico to offer people. It was either like home birth or hospital birth, and there was not that in between. And so many people were looking for it. So I realized that I had to really work towards that, and that's what made me start the nonprofit that I founded, which is Mujeres Hallando Madres. Because when I started working as a midwife, I realized like midwifery is just, and this was in 1998. It was like, wow, midwifery is for the elites, right?
Mhm.
And the only people with money can pay for it. And I didn't want that. So I started this nonprofit, and I was able to, little by little, with the proceeds we made from our vegetarian cafe, we like put it into, subsidizing care, and many times of not having any money. Asking for loans from my family to be able to like subsidize it. But yeah, so then I realized that this, the only path forward was we have, part of my mission was to help in the education of midwives. And so I've done that. I've educated almost all the midwives on the island. I've been their mentors in one way or another. I'm a director of a midwifery program. And then I realized that now I have to start, working towards creating other options for, like, we have the home birth midwives. Now we need to have other options for birthing people. So that's where the birth center came in. And then try to do it through, subsidized care system, so we can really serve everyone and not have it be just for people with the what do you call it? I can't think in Spanish or English, with the, like, the, I don't know, the funds to be able to pay for it. That's not the word I was looking for, but it's okay. Yeah.
The cash? The cash?
Yeah. Well, I was gonna say poder adquisitivo.
Oh,
I,
the translator?
I don't remember how you say that in English.
Well,
Adquisitivo. Mhm.
yeah, thank you. In case anybody missed it, Central Mom does have a little is it vegan or vegetarian? Your little
Well, now we've morphed into flexitarian.
oh. Very cool.
Yes,
I
yes,
recommend it if your birth center needs a little cafe.
yes.
All right, Tara, your turn.
I love that. We need a cafe too.
Mhm.
My midwives are here too. They're like, we love that idea. So we actually started in a small Speedy Mart, an old 7-Eleven gas station. And so and now they're a bakery, but we started about 10 years ago while I was still a student, and my preceptor had this dream and she said, we need a maternity hospital in South Seattle. So we haven't reached our actual dream yet, but this is our next step, is to build a birth center. And so we wanted to do it at the Speedy Mart, but we kept getting priced out of our neighborhood and displaced. And so that actually played, the journey of keep getting priced out of our market and serving people of color here in the neighborhood. So what we did was we went to the city and we just said, I need your help. Is there any way you could help us stay in the neighborhood and come back to serve the families that we want to serve, which it's the zip code is our 98118 zip code, which is the most diverse neighborhood in all of the United States. And it's in this 2-square radius. And so through the Equitable Development Initiative from the city of Seattle, they gave us funding to purchase land and property and 2 houses here in this area. And I don't know, I think you have to be at the right place at the right time, asking the right question and being willing to take huge leaps of faith, that you're doing what you're supposed to do and the way is going to open. And so that's kind of how I landed into owning a couple birth centers. It's by having faith to just keep going. And it's the hardest thing I've ever done. Keeping the doors open is the hardest thing I've ever done. Trying to, like, you don't learn to be a birth center owner in midwifery school. So I didn't
So
learn
true.
how to manage people, how to cultivate and train midwives and be a place that is, where it can grow safely. It's hard. It's really hard to manage and also be part of care. So there's a lot of hard learning lessons that we had to go through along the way.
Oh, thank you. And just really uplifting that, I'm sure we'll probably get into that a little bit more, but the things that birth center owners have to learn, like the learning curve is wild. It is a wild learning curve for sure. We're gonna move on to the next question. And actually, we're gonna start with you, Vanessa. Describe how your birth center model places the community at its center and what needs to happen to enable birth center models to evolve to this point. You're muted, Amor.
I'm sorry. We here we really focus on what our community is about, right? So birthing in Puerto Rico is very different than birthing in Washington State or even in Florida. So first, it's really important to, everyone who comes in and gets care with us, they understand the culture that they're birthing in outside of the birth center, right? So that's one of the very important things. I mean, of course, we have a wish that it's not that way, like that we don't have a 50% cesarean section rate in our space, in our country. But it is that way. So we got to be honest and clear about what people are looking at here in this in our country or territory or colony, whatever you want to call it. So really educating people about what's going on the outside. And then within the inside, we really focus on care that is based on the needs of our participants, right? So we have people from all across Puerto Rico, and within Puerto Rico, there's very many subcultures, right? We have a subculture. It depends where you're at, where you live. If you're from the north, from the south, we really try to meet our participants where they are at and give them the care based on their community, their immediate community standards. So that's really important. And then we also have people from, states that come and birth with us and from all over. So, we try to value and integrate the needs that they have coming from other places, especially the states. Really, being transparent about what it is to birth in Puerto Rico, but offering them an experience that we hope that they come out of this, of everything feeling empowered and really happy with their experience. So we really, again, try to meet people where they're at. We try to, have staff, people that serve the community that, within our center that represent across the board all kinds of communities, all kinds of people, so people can feel matched with their needs and their and what they need to feel like they get the best care.
Just a small little follow-up question is, when you chose the location of your birth center, was that also like how you were trying to be like serve as like a center for your community?
Well, no, we did choose it more than anything because it was so close to our major tertiary hospital. And the hospital is one of the least places that are hostile to out of hospital births. Births. Nowhere, no matter where you go, you're going to find a hostile environment, right? But it's a little bit less, and they practice a little bit more using evidence-based. But I hear of other places like Washington State. It's like, oh, so beautiful to birth there, even in the hospital, right? And here it's like constant war zone, right? It's like people outside of the walls of this birth center, what they have to face is either submission and just accept that that's the way it is and not get traumatized through it and just be like, oh no, it's okay, everything was fine, and say, or having to face some really, disempowering birthing events. And that's, Puerto Rico is really the epitome of the machismo from Latin America and the misogyny from the United States in one. So it's like we try to protect the people that we serve as much as we can. That's why I have a dream to open a birthing hospital. Like not even a birthing center. I want a hospital where I don't have to send anyone to those hospitals. Because it's almost like when they leave our space, it's an attack. And I don't want that anymore. I don't want our people to feel attacked. I want to create an alternate reality. I think that's the only way it's going to happen.
You already are doing that. You already are creating an alternate reality.
Yeah, but now I need to go farther. This is only a little bit. I need to go farther.
Awesome.
Yeah.
Let's go to you, Belen. Do you need me to read the question again, or do you?
No, I don't need you to read it again. So I think that the way the birth center model centers the community. The location itself is was both like in line with the regulations of like needing to be close to the hospital. Um, but also Española is kind of like the hub of the 8 northern pueblos in northern New Mexico. And so there's a lot of other small Hispano Chicanx villages around that area as well. So we're able to service a lot of that. And so it like literally we're in the center of all of these communities. And so trying to be available for them to access that. I think that, you know, there is a lot of education because a lot of places are rural. And so it's like, you know, reaching out and a lot of um, education on the different landscapes of what, you know, out of hospital birth looks like versus being in the hospital. You know, the different programmings that we have for the community members, trying to hold like wraparound care for you know, giving them as much support as they need. Um, and so I think that that's a big part of where we're coming from in our birth center model. And then the second part of the question, what needs to happen to enable birth center models to evolve to this point? Um, Again, I think it just, you know, it's a lot of time spent on education and a lot of time spent on outreach. There's that outreach piece is volatile for being able for people being able to access midwifery care.
Thank you. Thank you. I'm wondering, just a little follow-up, if there's like an example, even if it's just like a recent example of how you all place community at the center.
Um, uh, that's yeah. Um, you know, it's, you know, I think like at the hospitals or any, you know, other providers that are not really midwifery related, there, you know, it's like really boxed in. It's limited as to what they offer for services for the community. We really try to like, you know, have a needs assessment that we ask the clients so that we're helping them to access what their needs, you know, meet their needs in all areas of their life and not just within the pregnancy and the, you know, the birthing part of their lives, but all the different pieces that come along with that. So, you know, trying to I mean, even so going so far as to like going to help somebody clean their house, and you know, because that's like stressing them so much, you know, those are the things that weigh heavy on a lot of people, is, you know, not feeling resourced inside themselves in order to do things that they are normally capable of doing, you know, and they don't maybe have a family support system that's helping, or, you know, different things that are happening in their lives. And so helping to find that to give that resource to them, whether it be through we're actually doing that, or helping them to find a cleaning service, or, you know, some other way of meeting that need. And there's so many various things. There's mental health, there's, you know, groceries, and you know, just all the disparities that many of our communities face.
Thank you. Thank you. All right, Mariana, your turn.
Yeah. Um, So one of the things that we have tried to do, I'm in Glendale, Arizona. So it's the west side of the Phoenix metro area. And we are definitely heavily Spanish speaking population, but we do have a pretty good mix here. Some of the things that we try to do are especially engaging with our birth community right now, inviting them to hold their events for their clients, inviting them to come in. We've had several events just for birth workers, just so that we can socialize and have community, because that's really, really hard um, to practice and to have to be a birth worker and to service our community without that support. When I was planning the birth center, one of the things that I did very intentionally was reaching out to the community, and especially as a nurse midwife, I think it's currently greater than, I think when I became a nurse midwife, it was about 95% of certified nurse midwives are older, affluent white women, and being able to change that. So with intention, offering and opening to the community to train people who are interested in birth work, so our doulas, who need to come in and observe a birth or to find clients so that they can get certification or so that they can practice their skills, to be able to do that with us. Another thing about being a midwife, who is a midwife of color, especially as a nurse midwife, is just talking to other midwives, the amount of trauma that we have before we actually get into practice. The majority of us are done with practice by 3 to 5 years. So having that protective space for midwives of color to be trained, and to be able to enter practice um, without that additional stigma of being different in a birth space from everybody else around you. So definitely serving that community. And I think just us being here in the community has made that change. What do I wish? Let's see. What do we need to do to evolve? Part of that for me, because a big part of my goal was to create more midwives who look like me or who can serve people in my family, has been to become an educator. And I've actually done quite a bit for that. I have a doctorate in nursing practice, and I'm faculty at the university program here in Arizona. And that has, I became a fellow this year too for ACNM. So just being present, um, I'm a fairly private person. I don't like to have my picture on things. I don't like to be, the face of my birth center, those kinds of things. I would prefer that that's our community, our midwives, our families. But showing myself and being present and letting other people who would like to be midwives to be able to see that it's possible, that somebody like them has already done it and there's a place for them. I think that has that's what needs to happen in our communities for more people to feel welcome in a birth space. And as part of that, being able to change our culture, to change the system that we are in. I do have hospital privileges at our local hospital, and it is, like Vanessa was saying, that's a big part of being in the community, is being able to navigate that, especially when it's a hostile environment. In the hospital that we've chosen to keep our relationship with is a teaching hospital. And part of that responsibility that I feel in the community is to educate our residents how to be kind, how to see that family as a family. They're people and they need to be treated humanely. And minimizing that trauma for the families that do need to be in the hospital, because some people do. I mean, the hospital has a purpose, but we need to make it a safe place for them to be. So I would also very much like to have a system overhaul. I think we need a new system. I think the one that we have is failing, and has been failing for a long time. So absolutely agree with Vanessa. And I would love to make that happen. I also want an alternate reality.
Oh, thank you. I was going to follow up with a little question about because actually the four of you have something a little bit in common, which is taking sort of a pre-existing birth center and like really recreating it in this way of like, for Vanessa, it was like recreating her own kind of pre-existing thing. And then Mariana, you took over a birth center, and Tara, like you bought, this like pre-existing one, and Belen, moving this into a very much native led, nonprofit. And so, one of the things I was gonna say was like, how was that transition? But I really feel like you answered it, which is just really like all of you really focused on like, how do we really like raise up our community members? And so I just want to say thank you for that. And I will go to you, Tara.
It's so nice to hear from all of you in your story and your journey, because we all have the same language. We're all have the same vision of how do we change what we are stuck with into what works, and what works for us, like for our people and our families. Something that I say at every initial or every meet and greet is, we believe that you will birth where you feel safest. And kind of like what Mariana said, that what that does is it allows us permission for ourselves that not everybody is going to be safe and low risk and healthy to birth here at the birth center. And as a birth center owner, I had to shift my mindset that I can't risk one person for the thousands of people that we are going to serve. So why would I put everybody at risk when I could literally go across the street and get them good care? So, something Vanessa said, that it's happy at the hospitals here. We worked so hard for that. So I think that's really my answer to the second question is, how do we evolve us? We've been around for, me personally, 10 years as a in the midwifery role. And then, the team that I work with, they've been working in birth for 20 years here in Seattle. So we were here when we were getting yelled at. Every single transfer that we would walk in the door, we'd have to like just say, we're here for a purpose. They're going to scream at us. It's going to be okay. And we had to prepare them that you're going to be told you're an idiot for choosing out of hospital midwives. It's okay. They have medicine to save your life. And that's all we're here for. And we go from that mindset from 10, 12 years ago to today, where I have the lead OB's cell number on my phone, and I just give her a call and say, how busy is it across the street? She's like, we're good. But who do you have? What can I do? You called me for a reason. And even in the opposite, if something bad happened over at the hospital, she'll call and say, hey, something in the community happened. It was really hard here. And we like help each other. And I have never seen this before. And over the last few years, this has really evolved and grown. Another thing that we did is educating. We teamed up with one of the largest institutes that have 40 residents in their program, and their residents get to come through our clinic, and we're a site for them. We're one of their community sites. And so now anyone who wants to deliver at the hospital, we'll just put them on the resident schedule. And we have a resident here 2-3 times a month, so they can be on their schedule. And then when we get to the hospital, they're on the red team, and they page the resident that they saw at clinic, and they deliver the baby. And I've been a doula, as I'd transfer over and be the doula that's in the birth room with them. And so there's continuity of care, there's collaboration, there's respect of how do we do this, and lately so many of our folks just are not low risk or healthy. And as we keep going through their pregnancy, it just gets worse and worse. And so our collaborations have to be better and better and tighter with the OBs. And it's not just the ones across the street. We've developed relationships with 4 hospitals. We have formal MOUs. We talk about how we're going to transition, and there's a script when you call their L&D nurse, that they have a script, of what to say, what we're going to say, and how do we work together. But it really took 10 years of collaboration to get to that point. We still meet every month to go through transfers that didn't go so well. We still talk together. All the midwives have to agree to these standards, right? We all have to agree that we're going to show up with as healthy as possible, or transferring earlier than in labor, getting them records at 32 weeks instead of 32 hours into a horrible birth. Right? And so that took a long time for us to really figure out. And I think it's working. I think it's working really well for us. Next step is getting our midwives privileged over at the hospitals, and there's this seamless transition. Right now, we can only work with CNMs that would be able to do that, but it'd be awesome if we could have LMs transitioning into the hospitals too. So that saves us having to build our own hospital, but we still would love to be able to do that. The other thing that I've found has become really necessary in the last, since December, I would say, we've seen a huge influx of refugees coming and walking here from Brazil, from Angola to Brazil, Venezuela, Colombia, and they walk all the way up to Mexico border. And from there, they say, I want to go to a safe city. And so they're just giving everybody bus tickets to Seattle. And it's known throughout the world. Just go to Tukwila, and all of a sudden there's thousands of families and hundreds of pregnant women coming over. So that are just coming off a bus, and what's interesting, they've had care all along the way. So they have their little passports that have a stamp in Brazil, Venezuela, Colombia, Mexico, and then they come here and they're like, what do we do now? And so we've kind of been a hub for our county. To anybody who's pregnant, they can call us first, and we've created our own network with 4 of the largest OB and community health centers in our city, where we just say we have a 32-week-old family that needs care, and then we just put them where they need to go, help them get to the right place. So really stepping up and becoming a hub for the county and for our community has been really helpful. And we're lucky because our license follows us where we go. So we go to the shelters, we go to the tents and into the hotels. And we're, getting them care every Friday. They can come here for
That's awesome.
ultrasounds, blood draws, and then we do their initial paperwork and then say, this is where you're going to go now. This is where you're going to deliver your baby. And that, I think, the wants and the needs and the desperation of our community changes every month. Every month it's something more and more horrific. And because we are who we are, we have to be ready to meet the needs, be flexible. There's no judgment. And then we just have to find all the folks around us who believe the same way, that we can help you. And we did. We just found our 5 or 6 people that we can text and say, can you help us? And then all of a sudden there's an 8 a.m. opening for our person the next day. So we've learned a lot this last year.
Oh, thanks, Tara. It's so inspiring. It's like, I know that midwives are frontline providers, like they are at the front lines. and like just always ready, you know, to do that work. But it was so great to have that reminder that like birth centers also can serve as like these frontline facilities for folks that are in the immigration system, or, you know,
Yeah.
or in any kind of a legal system. Like there's so many legal things between all of the border stuff, and also, you know, thinking of the many, many borders here for our sovereign nations in the
Yes.
United States that also deal with borders. And so, yes, thank you. Woo, good answers. All right, well, let's move to the next question. So I always feel that it's so important, you know, that whatever people of color are building, that it be something that doesn't harm them. You know, I feel like for so many of us that are brought up doing nonprofit work, that there is sort of this harm, right? That I think Black, Indigenous, and people of color were taught to like sort of just accept as like being part of being able to do work for your community. And so I think that there's probably out there so many midwives that, you know, and hopefully some are on today listening, that they love their communities and they want to do their best for their communities, or they want to serve as frontline providers. And they probably already are doing a ton of stuff besides just catching babies and raising families and all the things. And so I guess I would love to just sort of feel out with each one of you, like, what's the thing that you either did from the beginning or that you wish you would have done in terms of like taking care of yourself in this process of being with your community in this way as their midwife? And I'm gonna start with you, Belen. You feel up to being the first person? Awesome.
I just want to say, Tara, thank you so much. That was so moving, about the networking and all the things that you're doing, in Seattle, and in particular, hearing about the refugees that are coming, and having all their stamps on their passports. It's, you know, they're walking up Turtle Island to be here, and birthing here. And that's just really impresses on my spirit, you know. It's a very deep thing. So thank you for sharing that. Um, Things that I maybe would have done differently. Well, I don't know if I would necessarily do anything differently. I feel that like, so I'm a body worker, and I did massage school before midwifery. And when I was in massage school, they told me like, you're gonna be challenged. You're gonna have to face yourself. You're gonna have to like really like go deep, and like all like preparing me like, you know, all these things are, you're gonna change so much. You're not gonna even recognize yourself. And that did not happen in massage school. And so when I was apprenticing as a midwife, that started happening. And I was just like, okay, like, here are the things, you know, that really have made me go deeper within myself, to be able to show up for people. And, you know, some of those things are childhood wounds. Some of those things are, you know, shadow work, that has come up. I think also, one of the big things for me is, having had long COVID, and the revelations on reclaiming my life after that. I've faced a lot of challenges, with all the different aspects of being, you know, whether, you know, emotional, spiritual, physical, you know, psychological. There's just all the things come up as a midwife. You know, and having triggers come up when there's clients that come in with domestic violence situations, or, you know, the level of poverty and substance use, or, you know, just so many layers um, of situations that we see in client care, you know, um, really can be something that makes us reflect on where we're at and how we're able, or if we're healed enough to help support this person. So I think that, I'm still learning, I'm still working on myself, and I probably will never stop working on myself. And I think it's really important to hold that as providers for the community.
No, thank you, Glenn. Mariana, what about you?
Yeah. So, owning a birth center was actually my self-care. Um, doesn't seem like it's a rough first year when you're learning all the things like you said, but this was actually my way of I knew that there was back up. I knew that there was not a place for me in the system, that was damaging to me and it was not good for my body or my family or the midwives that I was training behind me. And so I decided to leave the system. I know that, when we talk, like you were saying, in the intro, Marina, that really spoke to me, because that productivity and perfectionism, all of those things are things that we're taught by the system to use us up, instead of allowing us to care for ourselves, our family, and our community. So absolutely, um, that was my response. Was, if the system does not serve me, then I will no longer work for the system. I'm going to step outside of it. I wish that I had a board. I wish that I had outside funding, but our primary goal in our birth center is sustainability for our families and those that work in the birth center with us, whether they be birth workers, administrators, the people that come in and help us clean after a birth, all of those people, to make them independent so that they don't have to rely on that outside system as well. So we are, I guess, a for-profit birth center, but with very little profit, because it's shared among the people that are actively involved in the care of the birth center, which is interesting to sell to somebody when you're asking for funding. That we're not going to be $1 million birth center. We're not going to make a ton of money. We're actually here to support each other and our community. I think in Arizona, we're in a big time of change, especially with our public access program. So access is the Medicaid program here, and finding a way to care for those families in a sustainable way, while the midwives are also caring for themselves and their own families. In the system here, I've worked for large systems, hospital, medical groups, those kinds of things, as a nurse midwife. And what I found was that insurance-based system really works for the people in administration of the group and the insurance plan and the hospital, but not for the people who are receiving the care or for the people who are providing the care. So yeah, that was, I think, one of the most interesting things I've ever done for myself last year. But also, when people ask, how are you doing? How's your stress level? It is so much better. When my phone rings and I know it's a client in labor, I'm excited to answer the phone and to recognize the phone number and know where I'm going and who I'm caring for, than to be a midwife with high risk care background and taking whatever comes through the door, whether they've had care or not, and then traumatizing myself at the hospital to stand in the way. That was the only way that I knew how to protect that client, was to get in the way of the system so that they would not have to have that harm. Even going into the hospital now, as a birth center owner, I feel like it makes a really, really big difference. They know, the staff knows, the OBs know, the residents know exactly where I stand in the community, and why I'm there. And I feel like it's made all of the difference. I think it's made a difference to the people in the birth centers who were here before, to have that piece of the reason that we're here is to protect each other and to protect those that are coming into our care and who want to do birth work, so that I want to be able to do this when I'm 70 years old. I truly do. I truly want to be able, maybe not catching babies, but to be able to talk to women about how to care for themselves and their families, how to care for babies, how to care for my clients who are having babies now when they're managing their hormonal imbalances and their insomnia and their hot flashes. I want to be around for that. And this was the only way that I could see a few years ago to be able to do that, to completely leave birth work, which was my other option, or to find, because the system did not work for me, to find something else that I could replace it with that was actually serving me.
Oh, thank you. Tara.
This is really a great question, because I laugh as soon as you say it. You're like, what did you wish you could have done? Just off the first thing off the top of my head is I wish I could have given myself and my team real breaks and planned breaks, so that we don't have to break ourselves. Because there's so many times where we're just like, I'm broken. I can't do another day. I can't do, and then somebody just pulls at your heartstrings. You're like, okay, I'm gonna do one last home birth. Oh, I'm gonna do one last clinic day. And I can never do that again. I feel I sacrificed a lot in my personal life to get to where we are. My relationships, my time with my family and my kiddo. Um, and I can't go back there, and I love the fall because this is a time of transition and starting new again. And this is what I want for my team and myself, is that we have intentional breaks, um, where we can back each other up and give each other time, um, and no one is going to be left holding the bag. That's the hardest part, is like, if one person leaves, everybody else, like everything falls on one person. And I want to really create a team and a network, and that's something you just don't know. And I wish I didn't have to go through all the learning because it was so hard. But I really wish I took time to get mentored on how to be a birth center owner, and um and understood what it meant to be accredited, and how do you do this, and can I have somebody walk me through this horrible journey? And then and billing and credentialing your midwives, and how to write contracts for your midwives, how to be an employer, what are the laws around this. Like, those are the things that we, as an owner, you have to really think about. And why is it so expensive? Like, our general liability, and then you need board insurance, and then you need malpractice for every single person, and the birth center, and just keeping this open every day costs me thousands of dollars. Like, and how much it costs, and how much are we billing to keep it open. Like, having a real, if I would have known this, I could have been prepared better. I kind of, when you're just doing guerrilla work and you're just starting from the ground up, and you just go because you're needed, you sacrifice yourself along the way, because, oh, I can just go do it. It's easier if I just go and do this home visit. It's easier if I just go and take care of this. When it's actually not. I just cost myself $1,000 today, and if I would have known the business side of owning a business and owning this, we could have, I didn't have to, didn't have to be so hard. And I think I don't know how to do this. I don't know where it exists, but maybe it's at BCE where we actually go into the nitty-gritty of learning how to run this business. That would have saved me so much from the beginning. So.
Thank you. Okay, Vanessa.
So all of what Tara said, very important. Learning, like I think that's really self-care, having all those tools, and a lot of us, we learn as we grow. I always say it's like up your sleeve production. Like we're pulling it out of our sleeves and we're figuring it out as we go, and that's how I've always been. But at the same time, it's like, I embrace it as well, right? Because that's part of who we are. We're creators. I also agree with what Mariana said about having a birth center is self-care, because I remember having to go all over the place in Puerto Rico, like really uncomfortable houses. And I'm sorry, I mean, I'm 50, so air conditioning, there's like no air conditioning, and maybe, insects, and that wasn't comfortable, and it was really hot, and I didn't have everything, and trailers, and being pregnant. And so, having a comfortable, safe space for me to go to as a birth center, with a birth center, really makes such a difference for me. I know where I'm going, I know where everything is. Makes it so much easier to practice, to midwifery is already, it's hard as it is, right? So adding those other layers. I mean, I love home births, but I really like births here much better, because it just makes it smoother for the midwife, and having to drive all over the place in rugged terrain, or Puerto Rico, we have a problem that there's not, because electricity goes out, right? And so got to deal with that. There's no electricity, there's no water. Like now we have a generator, we have water tanks collection, so we know we're set in case we have an emergency or a power outage. So I definitely think that that is my self-care. And then one of the things I wish I had done a little bit more, that I need to start integrating now as I get older. I used to do it, but then I come back and I go, it's just really taking care of more of like my body, in terms of going to the beach more, going to do exercise. Or I know exercise like makes me feel good, right? And I don't do it because I don't have time. And so those are the things that I really want to focus on, making sure that I get my brain back into that mode of like, this is your pill, Vanessa. You need that dopamine boost. Because once you got that, you can do anything.
Thank you so much. It's so true. I think like that the families want their midwives to also be as well taken care of as they are, I think they really, if families knew how tired and how busy their midwives are, I think they would want that also. I was thinking we will hold on the next question. Just see, are there any questions? Julie, do we have any questions?
The only question, and feel free to drop them in right now if you have some questions popping up. I think the only question that I saw was, did Mariana at the beginning say that her birth center is buying for people of color? And I did reply that all of the centers in the Birth Center Equity Network are led by, grounded in communities of color. But if folks would like to speak more about that.
Sorry, Julie, did you say if our birth center was led by and
The question was, yeah, buy-in for people of color.
yes, specifically yes, for us. That was our absolute goal. Because there are no others. I'm sure that that's not unique in other states as well, but that was, I mean, we weren't meaning to be the first and only. I thought, wouldn't it be great if there were a birth center where I could go, and I'm not having babies anymore, but that I would go and feel comfortable, and the midwife would understand what language we speak at home, and would be able to care for me and my family and not think that it's strange that we feed each other's babies in our family. Um, breastfeed each other's babies. Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah,
Little
does
things.
anybody else want to answer that of what it
Mhm.
is to change the structure of a birth center? Because I feel like a few of you on here have done that.
I'll say my partner and is not a person of color, and um I got a lot of pushback from the community for hiring folks that are not POC. And it's just as challenging, but I I don't know what the right answer is, but we've created a place for us all to be safe. And she comes from a marginalized population and understands, and is an amazing teacher. And she was my preceptor, and I love working with her. And I think it's the way you go about serving community, and if you can still serve. And I don't know, there's just it's just been so hard. This work is just so hard. Um, I do have a question for everybody, because like if I like if I have you all in a room, you are all just amazing. What do you think was the right formula of midwives to clients to, like, where do I get to a place where we're thriving? Um, how many midwives does it take, and how many births do we have to have in order to get there?
Such an important question, especially when you're trying to serve a lot of people and when it's hard to find Native American and Indigenous midwives, right, to work in your center. So does anybody want to answer that?
I find it comfortable, but obviously I like I do other things. Right? I don't want to focus just on birth for
Mhm.
sustainability. Um, so looking for other things that we do to help balance it out, like what we do at the center and so forth. Um, I like to say like 2 for 7 births a month. That's that's comfortable for me. Like I don't like to think about every single night of like one night of every week I have to wake up in the middle of the night. Right? Yeah. Sometimes you do, but um having it a little more or more than once a week. Maybe one night, but 2 nights or 3 nights, breaking 3 nights is too intense.
How many midwives do you have working with you?
Right now I have another midwife with me, and then we also have a student midwife, and we have a nurse who works with us.
Just noting that do you have a couple questions in the chat? Would you like me
Oh,
to?
awesome. Yeah, I think I just want to also just say, like, for new midwives or someone who's dreaming of a birth center too, that like, I always like to say you can start really small too. You can
Mhm.
start with a very, very small project where your overhead doesn't have to be so much. And so just know your boundaries in who you serve and like how many people you serve, because it is really hard to serve everybody who needs you, because there's going to be so many people. But you just want to also, in the spirit of self-care, also like just start small and
Mhm.
then you decide, right, like where your limits are at or whatever. So all right, Julie, what is the question?
We have two questions come in. One is, I'll read them both and then we can decide. When you hire administrators, midwives, doulas, what are the qualities that you're looking for? Is one question. and the other is for the birth centers that are owned by multiple midwives. What is your business structure? Worker-owned co-op, something else? So qualities you look for in bringing in your team and structures that you've built around.
Well, I can talk about, for me, the qualities and that I've had to learn, through the trial and error. Um, but I have been working with, and again, we're a nonprofit, so no one here is the owner, right? When you're a nonprofit, no one is an owner. I've been the director, I was the founder and the director. But I have been working with Michelle. She trained with me, and she's been working with me since 2010. And so we work really well together, right? She's really reliable. She's understands, like, I find that we really respect each other's styles really a lot. There's good communication, and she's really loved by the community because she's very soft and gentle with the people, right? And I think that those are very important things, and just having a good, open communication relationship. I think that's really important, and that you have kind of similar practices, right? That you understand each other's limits because you have your own, you have similar limits in terms of the practice. So that's something for me that's really important. And, we just hired this nurse she's been a labor and delivery nurse at New York, in the hospital in New York, and she's Puerto Rican as well. And she had her baby with me 10 years ago. And she's just, I looked at her resume and it was like, wow, this woman is amazing. And, just looking at the persistence and wanting to work and the diligence, and, you do a trial period and see if you all have a good fit. And if you fit together, then, start working. That's what I've done, and it's worked. Sometimes it doesn't, but usually it does.
I think for me, I'm gonna start or go in reverse and answer the question about having multiple people own or be in directorship, leadership, administrative together. So our organization is our vision is to have a few directors. So we have an operations director, clinical director, and organizational director. And so we all kind of have different roles that we play within our administrative team. We're still trying to figure it out. We've just been piloting that program piloting that way of structure for about 2 years now. And so there's a lot for us to learn together still. I think that we're doing pretty good. We are trying to have it more of a what is it called, a horizontal model, so that there's a lot of consensus and a lot of things that we are deciding together, and that is we've gone through some shifts in our organizational structure just over the past couple of years. So it's not something that is like definite yet. This is it. This is the way to go. But it does have its benefits to having the different organizational pieces for different parties. The other question about when hiring administrative midwives or doulas, what qualities we look for. I also agree, like, that trial period is really important to see if it's a good fit. That was like one of the big lessons within the past couple of years, is to like, give that space for, I compare it to like dating instead of like just jumping in, to something. You're like, let's take our time, let's go out to the movies, let's like get to know each other kind of slowly and like, um, really get to know like how somebody practices. And I think that that really gives the confidence that people need in order to work together, like build trust and being able to step away and just trust that your partner in the business, the organization, is going to take care of things similarly to how you would take care of things, and you don't have to worry about your clients that you're trying to you're thinking about them the whole time you're gone. Oh, did this get followed up on? Are they feeling okay? Are they emotionally, all the different pieces that you're worried about? Because we develop that psychic connection with our clients, and similarly we also develop that psychic connection with the people that we work with. So there's a very big part of our human beingness that we can lean into when we really work well with someone. And so that's a big part of it. I think that values is also something, having similar values in how you practice, um, and just having that like um, stance on, these are the things that we're in community together, and it will to be in community with the outer community. That's how I would put some. Yeah, that's how I would answer those.
So good. Anybody else want to answer that?
I can just talk about our business structure. So we're also a nonprofit, 100% nonprofit. So have a really good board and a relationship with your board. So, they're the ones that own the birth center. They have fiduciary responsibility. So, they also have to approve the financial policies, the birth center policies, the guidelines. So make sure you have a well-versed midwife who's on the board to help making clinical decisions. And then one thing I like about having a nonprofit is that it allows us to apply for grant funding. So through the grants, we're able to have programs and provide doula services, and we provide group prenatal classes, education, things that would take my midwife, I would never be able to bill for. They can now do it through the programming of the grant. The grants give us stability, and that's our majority of our income comes through the grants. They pay for all the overhead of what we're doing. And then a model I'm working on right now is contracting the midwives. So doing a fee for service, they end up making more money than as a salaried midwife. It's an incentive for them to work while, you know, being on call, answering call, and then all their clinic days, and if they deliver the baby. So we're working on that to see if maybe that's the right model where they're getting paid fairly and adequate. And instead of salary, and maybe we have to salary because it also is hard to pay somebody 15,000 a month, but they can definitely make that much, or more through this model. So, I don't know. We're just thinking it might actually work if we can find the right set of midwives that can do this, that are. So I guess my quality is, are you business minded and do you want to make money doing this? Like, because this is we've tried the other way, and you just can't have a livable wage working the hours that midwives work. Like, and what we're doing and salarying them is just I don't know, it's really hard. So we, but if I have a midwife who's really gung ho about like, let's build a program. I'm really good at this. Let's figure this out. Let's start it. And I can write the procedures on it. And then there's money there. So it's kind of, you need somebody who's willing to work and show up. And oftentimes our students are so exhausted after midwifery school that they're tired and they're like, nope, I only work these hours. I my phone turns off at 6 p.m., and good for you to have boundaries, but when we're building a business like this that's 24/7, we have to have the right teammates, coworkers, to work with each other, to build something. So I'm always looking for somebody who's willing to work and be a midwife, like be a full midwife, take care of your folks, really follow up with their labs, understand what's going on, think ahead. Who should we bring in for help? Like really take care of the families in front of you. And call them. Don't be afraid to call them. Don't be afraid to do a home visit. Go be a midwife, an actual midwife. You are not a staff midwife. Like, take some ownership and some pride in the work that you're doing. So, yeah.
Thank you. I just also think it's really great that we sort of ended on this reminder that there really is abundance for birth center owners. There's lots of strategies needed. There's lots of hiring the right people for the right job, things like that. But I do love that reminder here at Birth Center Week that there is really abundance and there's just so much beauty and abundance and also being a birth center owner, as hard as it is. So thank you for that reminder. We have a few minutes left. So Julie, I don't know, do we just want to close out and say thank you, or is there another little quick
Yeah,
check-in?
I think we will just close out. Thank you to our amazing speakers, to Belen and Tara and Mariana and Vanessa and Marina for holding this space. Thank you all for joining us and being part of, kind of making history together, as folks said. Oh, are these, people of color led and based centers? And yes, that's happening, and we're growing. So thank you for being part of making history together. Also want to invite folks, we have more sessions. We have a wonderful policy session tomorrow, co-sponsored with Black Mamas Matter Alliance. And we have an amazing panel on Friday. What does birthing with justice mean? A conversation that'll happen on Friday. So hope you'll join, hope you'll check out the stories from birth centers, personal stories from birth centers that are going on Instagram and TikTok. And you will get I think we might drop it in the chat. You'll get an evaluation. It's only 2 questions, but it would be really great if you could answer those 2 questions. It really helps us guide into next year. So thank you. If you want to drop a appreciation for our panelists in the chat or anything you're feeling right now, we'd love to hear it as we close.
Thanks so much, everybody.
Thank you,
Thank you.
co-panelists. I appreciate all your voices, and thank you, hosts and participants.
Yes, thank you.
Thank you, Mario, always.
Thank you.